dismissing you as a juror in this case. I'm going to find that you're an indirect criminal contempt, instruct the state of Florida to file charges against you.
This juror is about to serve some serious time for forcing a mistrial. This story is crazy. This is Kyla De Pena from Florida. Now, she became a juror in a case involving a man named Besman Okafor. Now, Besman Okafor and two other men were involved in a home invasion robbery in May of 2012. During that trial, Okafor got a great idea. If there's no witnesses, then they can't convict me. So Okafor masterminds an execution of the witnesses.
So the day of the arraignment, they had this meeting right in the back of the courthouse. See, when something like this happens, you know how things are going to work out. It's always better with no witnesses. So what about Andy?
He won't talk. Stone's a good kid. Stand-up guy just like his old man. That's the way I see it.
I agree. He's solid. He's a fucking Marine.
He's okay. He always was. Remo, what do you think?
Look, why take a chance? At least that's the way I feel about it.
Now, Okafor was not successful in killing all the witnesses because, unfortunately for him, somebody survived. So the state then convicted him of the home invasion and gave him life in prison.
Court finds you are to be sentenced under PRR. As to count one, which is the burglary of a dwelling with an assault or a battery with a firearm, that is a life felony. The court is going to adjudicate and sentence you to life. With regard to count two, which is robbery with a firearm, which is a F1, but is a PBL, that is the case involving Brianna Campos. The court is going to adjudicate and sentence you to life.
Now, even though Okafor was serving a life sentence already for the home invasion, the state decided to charge him again for the murder of the witnesses.
This is on trial this week, charged in the 2012 killing of 19-year-old Alex Zaldivar in Ocoee. Prosecutors say it was part of a plot to silence Zaldivar and his roommates so they would not testify at a home invasion trial.
Now, in 2015, Okafor was found guilty and sentenced to death by a jury. Now, that jury vote to sentence Okafor to death wasn't unanimous. And in 2016, the Florida Supreme Court overturned the death sentence for Okafor because the jury verdict wasn't unanimous. Then in 2020, a new Florida Supreme Court with more conservative justices ruled that a unanimous jury was not required to sentence someone to death, reversing the previous decision. Then Governor Ron DeSantis said enough with the nonsense. He signed a law that allowed death sentences to be imposed if only 8 out of 12 jurors recommended it.
Okafor was originally sentenced to death in 2015 after killing 19-year-old Alex Zaldivar, who was slated to testify against Okafor in a home invasion case. That sentence was overturned after the state Supreme Court ruled a death sentence requires a unanimous vote of jurors. Prosecutors were working to get that death sentence reinstated after a new law went into effect last April, requiring only 8 of 12 jurors to agree.
So the prosecutors decided to go at it again, and 12 jurors were selected. One of those jurors was Kyla De Pena. Now, Kyla De Pena did not want to do jury duty. She tried everything to get out. So Kyla came up with a great idea. Let me just cause a mistrial, and then guess what? All the jurors can go home. And she even told other jurors of her plans.
She did not want to be on this in particular jury. She did mention that her work does not provide compensation for jury duty.
Jurors testified against De Pena, saying she stated multiple times her frustrations with being a juror. One juror mentioned she verbalized her intent to cause a mistrial the night before Okafor's sentencing trial was supposed to end.
She was upset. She said that she needed to be at work that night. We were called back in the room, and the judge told us we were going to be sequestered for the night, explained the rules, and then we went back into the deliberation room, and she asked to speak to the judge. And before she walked out, she said she was about to make that a mistrial.
So the juror walks out the room, tells the jury, I'm causing a mistrial, and then goes and tells the judge this.
The jury went back to decide whether to give Okafor the death penalty, and they'd been deliberating for hours when the 26-year-old juror told a deputy she needed to talk to the judge. She then told him she'd spoken to a friend over the weekend who knew the victim and, quote, believed him to be a good person. The juror said she, quote, could no longer be fair and impartial, and that she would never be able to vote to recommend a sentence of death. The juror had gone 3 days without telling the judge that she had violated his order not to talk to anyone about the case.
So as you can imagine, the judge declared a mistrial, and the other jurors then ratted this juror out, saying, hold on, she did all of this on purpose. After looking at the evidence, the judge then said this.
Dismissing you as a juror in this case, I'm going to find that you're an indirect criminal contempt, instruct the state of Florida to file charges against you.
Zaldivar says jurors reached out to him explaining what happened.
So then the state of Florida did follow through and file charges against this juror for intentionally, and again, I want to make that very clear, intentionally causing a mistrial. Now, this is what the juror said in her defense.
There was no intention of causing any harm, and there was no ill will from my end. I was truly overwhelmed and did not know how to handle this situation.
Now, after all the tears and all the crying and, hey, I didn't know how to get out the situation, the judge didn't believe it at all and maxed her out.
And now that judge went on to sentence Depina to 179 days in jail, the max time for her offense.
Now, we can't forget about Bestman Okafor because of this juror's actions. He had to be resentenced again, and you had to have a whole new jury come in. And that jury came to a decision.
First, though, breaking news, the verdict just in from the court, the jury making a recommendation in the third sentencing trial of a convicted killer to send him back to death row. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lisa Bell.
Glad you're with us tonight. I'm Matt Austin. Bestman Okafor was originally sentenced to die in 2015 for the murder of Alex Zaldivar. That was later overturned due to changes in Florida's death penalty laws which once again changed in the last year.
We, the jury, find by a vote of 9-3 that Bestman Okafor should be sentenced to death.
So Bestman Okafor doesn't have long for this world in Florida. But a couple of things come up with this case. Number one, 179 days is about 6 months, if you really think about it. And that's more time than Jussie Smollett got for the hoax that he did in Chicago.
Just in the last few moments, right behind us here in a Cook County courtroom, Jussie Smollett was remanded into custody. He has been sentenced to 30 months probation, which will include 150 days, which he will have to spend behind bars here at the Cook County Jail. He was just taken into custody. He was screaming as he was escorted out of the courtroom, "I am not," and continuing to proclaim his innocence. He will also have to pay over $120,000 in restitution. He faces a $25,000 fine. And again, he is now going to be spending the night, as of now, behind bars in a Cook County jail.
Yeah, that juror got slammed worse than Jussie Smollett. And I think Jussie Smollett's sentence should have been served. But now, I want to pitch to you. What do you think about this juror? Do you think she got too much time? Or do you think she got too little time? Now, I'm just going to say it. If you want to get out of jury duty, there are other ways you can do it than just causing a mistrial, lying and saying you spoke to someone when you didn't speak to them, and then lying to the judge. Because again, this woman was lying to the judge every day.
And you also told me that you lied to me every morning you came to court and told me that you did not have contact with anybody.
So now, if you're serving on jury duty and don't want to serve, I think you find another way to get out of jury duty, because causing a mistrial intentionally will get you locked up, as this one found out. Now, let me know how you feel in the comment section. Tell me where I'm wrong, as always. And my name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.